Imagine a world of bronze and gold, of mighty empires and sprawling cities, a world connected by vast trade networks where ships from Egypt, Anatolia, Cyprus, and the Aegean Sea crisscross the Mediterranean, carrying copper, tin, grain, and precious luxuries. This is the late Bronze Age, a time of palaces, of scribes, of chariots, and of gods who walked among mortals. The great Hittite Empire controls the heart of Anatolia. The Mycenaean Greeks, the heroes of Homer's epics, rule the Aegean. And in the south, the eternal kingdom of Egypt, under pharaohs like Ramesses the Great, stands as a beacon of power and permanence. These civilizations write to each other, sign treaties, arrange royal marriages. They are rivals, yes, but they are part of a stable, interconnected global system. It is a world that seems destined to last for 1,000 years. And then, in the space of a single lifetime, around the year 1200 BC, it all comes crashing down. This is not the story of the fall of a single empire. This is the story of the end of a world. And at the heart of this catastrophe, there is a ghost, a phantom that appears in the desperate last records of dying kings, a mysterious, unstoppable force known to history only by the name their victims gave them, the Sea Peoples. To understand the magnitude of the collapse, we must first appreciate the world that was lost. The late Bronze Age was a period of incredible sophistication. In the grand palaces of Mycenae, Pylos, and Tiryns, Greek kings ruled over complex societies. They had a writing system, Linear B, used by an army of scribes to keep meticulous records of taxes, trade, and military deployments. Their artisans created exquisite works of gold, ivory, and bronze. Their epic poems, passed down orally for generations before being written down, would become the foundation of Western literature. To the east, in their capital of Hattusa, the Hittite kings governed a massive, multi-ethnic empire. They were masters of diplomacy and law, creating intricate treaties with their neighbors. Their military was formidable, built around the fearsome technology of the horse-drawn chariot. They were one of the two great superpowers of the age, equals to the pharaohs of Egypt. And Egypt, the oldest and grandest of them all, was in its new kingdom period, a time of immense wealth and architectural ambition. Pharaohs like Ramesses II built monuments that still inspire awe today. This was a world of order, of structure, of predictable power dynamics. A letter written by a Hittite king could be read by a scribe in Egypt. A piece of pottery made in Cyprus could be found in a market in Ugarit, on the coast of Syria. This was the first great age of globalization, and it was about to be completely and utterly erased. The first tremors of the coming earthquake are found in clay tablets, baked hard by the very fires that destroyed the cities where they were written. In Ugarit, a prosperous coastal kingdom, the king receives a desperate letter from a neighboring ruler. It reads, "The enemy's ships are here. They have set my cities on fire and have done evil things in my country." The reply from the king of Ugarit is even more chilling. He writes to the king of Cyprus, "My father, behold, the enemy's ships came. My cities were burned, and they did evil things in my country. Does not my father know that all my troops and chariots are in the land of the Hittites, and all my ships are in the land of Lycia? Thus the country is abandoned to itself." This is the last known letter from the king of Ugarit. Shortly after, the city was violently destroyed, its great palace burned to the ground, never to be inhabited again. This was not an isolated event. Across the eastern Mediterranean, the same story was repeated with terrifying speed. The great Hittite capital, Hattusa, was sacked and burned. The entire Hittite Empire, a power that had stood for 5 centuries, vanished from history so completely that for thousands of years, scholars thought it was just a biblical myth. In Greece, the great Mycenaean palaces were destroyed. Pylos, Mycenae, Tiryns, all consumed by fire. The intricate system of linear B writing was forgotten. Literacy itself was extinguished in Greece for over 400 years. A dark age descended. Cyprus, the copper-rich heart of the Mediterranean trade network, saw its cities ravaged. All across Anatolia and the Levant, archaeological layers from this period show the same thing, a thick, black layer of ash and destruction. In the span of just 50 years, the interconnected world of the Bronze Age had ceased to exist. Who or what could have caused such a widespread and total collapse? The Egyptians, the only major power to survive the onslaught, gave us a name. On the walls of his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu, Pharaoh Ramesses III inscribed a monumental record of his struggle against this mysterious foe. He called them the foreign countries and the peoples of the sea. His inscriptions describe a great confederation of different tribes who came from the north, moving by land and sea with their families and possessions in ox carts. They were not just raiders, they were a migrating people looking for a new home. The inscription reads, "No land could stand before their arms, from Hatti, Kode, Carchemish, Arzawa, and Elashia on, being cut off at one time." A camp was set up in one place in Amurru. They desolated its people, and its land was like that which has never come into being. They were coming forward toward Egypt, while the flame was prepared before them. The reliefs at Medinet Habu give us our only glimpse of these enigmatic warriors. They are depicted with distinctive feathered headdresses, round shields, and long swords. Their ships are filled with these fierce-looking men. Ramesses boasts of a great victory against them in a massive land and sea battle on the shores of the Nile Delta. "I have overthrown those who invaded from their lands. I have slain the Denyen in their isles, the Jeker and the Philistines were made ashes." He saved Egypt, but the victory was costly. Egypt was weakened, its empire in Asia was lost, and it soon entered a long period of decline. The sea peoples were defeated, but their impact was permanent. But the Egyptian inscriptions, for all their bravado, leave the most important questions unanswered. They list the names of the tribes in this confederation, the Paliset, the Jeker, the Shikalesh, the Denyen, the Weshish, but they never tell us where they came from. They came from the isles in the midst of the sea, a vague description that has fueled 1,000 theories. They appear suddenly in the historical record, lay waste to the known world, and then just as suddenly they disappear. For decades, the most popular theory was that the sea peoples were a massive, coordinated migration of peoples from the Asian and Western Mediterranean. Perhaps the Trojans and their allies displaced after the Trojan War. Perhaps Proto-Etruscans from Italy, or Sardinians or Sicilians. The Paliset are widely believed to be the Philistines of the Bible, who settled on the coast of Canaan after being repelled by the Egyptians. This theory paints a picture of a great horde of sea-born warriors, A Viking age before the Vikings, smashing their way across the sea. The evidence is compelling. The feathered headdresses shown on the Egyptian reliefs bear a striking resemblance to helmets depicted on pottery from Mycenaean Greece. The name Shekelesh sounds tantalizingly like Sicily. But there are problems. Why would so many different peoples from different regions suddenly band together in a single destructive wave? And if they were a migrating population, where are their archaeological footprints? Outside of the Philistines, we find no widespread evidence of a new culture or a new people settling in the lands they supposedly conquered. The trail, once again, goes cold. This has led to a more modern and perhaps more terrifying explanation. What if the sea peoples were not the cause of the collapse, but a symptom? This is the systems collapse theory. It argues that the late Bronze Age world was brought down not by a single enemy, but by a perfect storm of converging catastrophes. The theory begins with climate change. Ice core samples from Greenland and tree ring data from Anatolia show that this exact period experienced a sudden and severe shift in climate, leading to prolonged droughts. Drought led to famine. Famine led to social unrest and internal rebellions. People were starving. The complex trade networks that these empires relied on began to break down. When tin from Afghanistan could no longer reach Cyprus to be mixed with copper, the entire bronze industry, the bedrock of their economy and military, would grind to a halt. Add to this a series of devastating earthquakes that hit the region at the same time, a phenomenon known as an earthquake storm. Cities that were already weakened by famine and rebellion were now literally shaken to their foundations. In this world of chaos and collapse, societies began to fracture. Central governments lost control. People abandoned the dying cities and took to the seas, not as a unified army, but as desperate, opportunistic bands of refugees and raiders. In this view, the sea peoples were not a single ethnic group. They were the desperate, uprooted survivors of this collapsing world, former Hittite soldiers, Mycenaean sailors, Canaanite farmers, anyone who was displaced and desperate enough to take what they needed to survive. They were a symptom of the disease, not the disease itself. They were the final, brutal wave that washed over a world that was already drowning. This systems collapse theory is a chilling one because it offers an echo of our own time. We too live in a complex, interconnected, globalized world. We too are facing the challenges of climate change, political instability, and fragile supply chains. The story of the late Bronze Age collapse is a cautionary tale. It reminds us that no civilization, no matter how powerful or sophisticated, is immune to collapse. The line between order and chaos is thinner than we think. The mystery of the sea peoples may never be fully solved. The identities of the men in the feathered helmets may remain forever lost to us. But their legacy is written in the ash layers of burned cities and in the 400 years of darkness that followed. They are a silent, powerful reminder from the distant past, a testament to the fact that the world we know can vanish in the blink of an eye, leaving behind only ruins and a ghost story whispered across the millennia.